I talked about fighters with very high finish rates in my last upload. Now we're going to be talking about fighters who never finish their fights and always take their scraps to decisions. Merab Dvalishvili is one of the fighters who just recently beat these allegations. He was a heavy decisionator all the way up until finishing Sean O'Malley. And I mean, with a win like that, there's not really much that we can say about this dude. At least until like 3 more fights where he doesn't finish anyone else. And to be fair, this guy's fights where he does win decisions are actually really interesting. That fight against Corey Sandhagen, there was definitely shades of him showing the capability of being able to knock out lesser opponents. Corey Sandhagen is good, so he was able to stay in the fight. He almost got knocked out in the second round, though. And I mean, nobody forgot about that. But yeah, the first guy that we're going to mention is going to be Rafael Estevam. Rafael Estevam actually just got ranked in the flyweight rankings again after holding the number 15 spot and then getting it taken by Joseph Morales and then Kai Kara France leaving the rankings for an undisclosed reason. We still don't know why Kai Kara France isn't ranked anymore or where he's gone. But Rafael Estevam is now number 15 in this division. He was supposed to fight with Alan Nascimento in his last fight, but this dude always has a problem with making weight at 125. And so Alan Nascimento had to fight with Cody Durden. Rafael Estevam's fights basically entail him getting to back take positions and holding them for 2 rounds and then gassing out in round 3, putting on 5 minutes of the most boring lay and pray offense that you've ever seen in your life. He barely makes it all 3 rounds every single time, and by some miracle of God is able to win decisions over people. I'm not sure if it's because of how much weight he cuts in order to make 125, but he's just good enough at jiu-jitsu to win decisions. This is a specialist, like he's a grappling specialist, and he definitely does have some finishes on his resume, some submissions, but none in the UFC. This guy is just winning decisions, and even though he's ranked, I'm sure that all of maybe 5 people who watch this channel can give you detailed synopsises of Rafael Estevam fights just from memory because they like the guy. This is one of the fighters who is the hardest to support in this weight class. I remember I even picked against him in his last fight, like Felipe Bunez. I was like, yo, Felipe Bunez, low-key has the skills to do this because he has really good cardio and he's a grappler himself. But he burnt himself out chasing this buggy choke. And that, like, it feels so bad. It felt so bad watching, like, this fight slip away from his grasp and him losing all of his cardio before Rafael Estevam. And then Rafael Estevam still gassing out, too, and then making that 3rd round a scramble to see who could maintain better positions all the way up until the final bell. It's a hard watch every time. But at the very least, Rafael Estevam at least wins 2 out of 3 rounds as a guaranteed thing. Whether it be the first round and then the 3rd round, or the first 2 and then barely clinging to life all the way up until they get to the cards. This guy is a decisionator through and through. Next is my boy Aljo. Aljo he be winning decisions, man. He be losing decisions too. It comes down to pacing. This guy fights at a frenetic pace, but he just doesn't do enough damage in order to make it so that he can actually threaten a finish over anybody that he's fighting. Brian Ortega was severely compromised in the cage. Not to the same level that TJ Dillashaw was, but it still took him 2 rounds to dispatch TJ Dillashaw with a completely separated shoulder that he couldn't even lift over his head. Brian Ortega was knocking on death's door due to a failed weight cut, and Aljamain Sterling still played footsies with that guy for 3 rounds. And yeah, he handedly won the fight, but he called for a title shot after winning that fight. And it's like, dude, you have no finishing threat. When are you going to finish a fight? The best thing that we could expect from this dude is for him to masterclass his opponent in a display of wrestling prowess. People spoke really highly of Movsar Evloev versus Aljamain Sterling for the same reason. It was a very high-level display of offensive grappling on both sides. But, like, do you really remember that fight? I know that you sound like an insane hardcore for being like, yo, I actually think that Aljamain Sterling versus Movsar Evloev was one of the best grappler versus grappler matchups that we've ever seen in the UFC octagon. But do you even remember that fight? Because I'm going to let you know right now, this is a safe space for you. You're not a casual if you thought that that wasn't the most compelling fight to watch. People were talking about, oh, Aljamain was robbed. Movsar Evloev didn't win that fight. And me, bro, I was just kind of glad that it was over whenever all things are said and done. Get these grappling ad dudes off my screen. These guys who never finish their fights. I wish that there was like an Ilia Topuria-esque fighter at 145 still, for the express purpose of existing in this weight class to chin fighters who are just pure grapplers and boring. I thought it was going to be Gian Silva, but Gian Silva has issues on the ground, some technical breakdowns in the grappling, and I think that he actually would lose to fighters like Movsar Evloev and like Aljamain Sterling. So there's no real way to punish these guys because they're just going to keep on winning through really boring displays of top control offense in the grappling. But yeah, Aljamain Sterling, dude, like, so many decisions. He's not stopping any fights. This dude is just only winning decisions exclusively. Closely related to Aljamain Sterling is Petr Yan, and I'm about to say some bad words, you guys. What if I told you that Petr Yan has half the amount of finishes since the year 2020 that Merab Dvalishvili has on his record. Merab Dvalishvili has 2, Petr Yan has 1. Uriah Faber was in 2019, Jose Aldo was in 2020, and then nothing but decisions all the way up his record since then. Merab Dvalishvili has had finishes over Marlon Moraes and also Sean O'Malley since the year 2020. Marlon Moraes in 2021, Sean O'Malley just this year. We like this guy because of how fluid his striking is and how high level and technical he is on the feet, but this dude is not finishing his fights. I think that it is a power thing, to be honest. There's no shortage of technique in Petr Yan's striking. He's a maestro. But, I mean, as far as that snowballing and culminating to an opportunity where he can finish a fight, he's even fought down in his last opponent, Marcus McGee, who I'm not even sure if he was ranked at the time of taking the fight with Petr Yan. I don't think he was. No finish. Davison Figueiredo, who, I mean, he handedly won against. There is no level of pace that he can push up against these guys to where he could break them down and actually score a finish. I mean, it's not really hurting him to the point where he can't vie for rematches for the title. But this isn't really like the highest level of comp that he's beaten in his last 3. And there's not been a single TKO or KO produced from any of those fights. The very best that we can expect out of a Petr Yan performance is that he wins handedly and just beats the crap out of his opponent in a one-sided decision. And that's pretty much what we've been getting lately, but I mean, if we're going to call a spade, Petr Yan is going to a lot of decisions. Even his losses, they're decisions. This guy here, our number 1 contender of featherweight, our number 1 contender, the guy who deserves to fight Volkanovski the most, right? People talk about this dude's being snubbed and that they want to watch this fight. Oh my God. I wish I had the fedora, bro, for the fake hardcore takes. What happens if Movsar Evloev actually does beat a Volkanovski who's taken a step back from where he once was prior to his losses to Ilya and Islam? There's a chance that Volkanovski has lost a step since we last saw him, which was a long time ago. Him fighting Diego Lopez was like April of this year, right? What happens if Movsar Evloev just wrestles this guy and now he's champion? And now we have to watch Movsar Evloev, the guy who never fights, right? He's the one with the belt. And we have to watch him just put on these unanimous decision performances. Unanimous decision performance. Oh, look, there's a split decision. I just really want to know, is it worth looking like a hardcore now for advocating that this guy should be the next to fight for the title? If it actually does end up being something that he pulls off, Movsar Evloev beating Volkanovski, and then we'd have to endure his reign of terror at 145. I don't think it's worth it, man. There's no real level of danger this guy poses to any of his opponents, and it's really been him on the ropes for 2 out of his last 3 fights. Aljamain Sterling was calm, he won the fight, but Arnold Allen, he almost got finished. If the rules were a bit different, he would have lost that fight. He's the reason for one hand being down on the canvas doesn't constitute you as a down opponent anymore. That fight was a turning point in the rule book. Diego Lopez almost had him in a knee bar as well. I've come around to the Armin support, right? I get why people like to glaze Armin and be like, yeah, he's the true number 1 contender of 155, and he should be the one to fight Ilia Topuria. That's all good. That's all fine and dandy, right? But Movsar Evloev, as the spiritual number 1 contender of 145, the guy who we should all be supporting to get the next title shot, other than the fact that he does carry the ranking, that would make it make sense for him to be the next to fight for the title. This guy is boring, dude. Watching Movsar Evloev fight is less enthralling than like peeling a scab off of your forearm. This dude's fights are seriously boring. Next we have Nathaniel Wood, who's directly in the middle of being a gatekeeper and a prospect himself. He's into his early 30s, so it's hard to consider him like a prospect that people are going to get excited for, and for the fact that he's been in the UFC for so long. But I think his deal is the fact that he was a bantamweight to start, and he was a big bantamweight, and then he went up to 145, and now he's like moderately sized as a featherweight, and his power didn't translate from 135 to 145. So he's taken everybody to a decision. That was actually a good move for him, though, because he got knocked out by John Dawson in their fight, and that's indicative that he's probably just cutting too much weight, because it happened later on in that fight, and John Dawson wasn't even a big bantamweight either. He was a flyweight for a majority of his career until the very end. But Nathaniel Wood, I mean, he's on a good win streak. He wins his fights. He has big moments in them where he's dropping his opponent. He doesn't really have like the intuitive ability of other people in this weight class to chase finishes once he does have his opponent compromised. They usually end up recovering, and then he just stays ahead in the fight if he's able to establish any type of lead through getting a rock or a dropped moment. Nathaniel Wood is a quintessential decisionator in the UFC. And this has been proven in his fight against Jose Miguel Delgado, Morgan Charrier, Daniel Pineda. All of his fights are pretty forgettable for the fact that, I mean, you probably picked the hot upcoming prospect to beat him, and you were really sad whenever they didn't, and you want to suppress it because it wasn't the best fight. but they still lost. That's how I'm going to treat the Jose Miguel Delgado fight whenever Jose Miguel Delgado gets going again. I'm just going to completely wipe the Nathaniel Wood fight from my memory. That's how a lot of his scraps end up going. Like, damn, Nathaniel Wood, you were supposed to get knocked out, but he just didn't. So, I mean, credit where credit's due at the same time. I mean, he beat one of the best prospects at 145 pounds. They should throw him a bone. He called out Patricio Pitbull. I think that they should make that fight. Give this man a reward because, I mean, he's working hard. He has a family, too. I follow this guy on Instagram. I'm not mad at it. But it would be nice to see him actually get some finishes on his resume. Next, we have Grant Dawson. And I know you do see quite a few KOs, TKOs, and submissions scattered throughout this record right there. But they're always in the third round. Grant Dawson, he takes a while to work in the cage. Whenever he's able to win fights, though, he's very effective. But he's not one of these guys who comes on strong early to get a round 1 stoppage in most events. It's not even coming in round 2. You got to wait like 10 minutes minimum in order for Grant Dawson to whittle away at his opponent to the point where he can latch in a submission or get to a TKO through ground and pound. Most of the time, it's just going to be a decision, though. But the term is Grant Dawson Masterclass. And that just means working your wrestling to get your opponent completely out of the fight. I like watching Grant Dawson fight because I think that his antics on the mic after he wins the fights are what makes him very notable to me. He's always talking about his girl's fat butt. He's pretty funny without trying to be. I like Grant Dawson. I think that he's a good fighter. Very quality as a guy who carries a rank in lightweight. I'm very interested to see how his fight with Manuel Torres goes. But yeah, you kind of know what you're going to get whenever you do see Grant Dawson fight. Before, he was placed on the prelims of numbered cards most of the time. Apex events. Grant Dawson is just going to beat whoever he's match made with up on the ground. He's going to get a submission after grinding away at them for 2 rounds and some change. Or he'll beat them the entirety of 15 minutes, and that's going to be that. Or he gets one shot by Bobby Green in like 30 seconds. Next, we have Calvin Kattar. And Calvin Kattar, like, what happened? I noticed this the other day when I was looking at the featherweight rankings. And whenever I was looking at like Aljamain Sterling or Arnold Allen, and I saw that they had recent wins over Calvin Kattar, relatively recent at least, and then Steve Garcia's last fight too, you look at Calvin Kattar's record and you're like, man, where did it all go wrong? Because I mean, this guy's kind of flown under the radar as someone who's had like a career decline because he hasn't been getting knocked out. He did have the injury against Arnold Allen where he hurt his leg, but I mean, that wasn't like a proper KO where he got separated from his donkey, right? But he came back, fought Aljamain Sterling, got wrestled. Yusuf Zalal, he just got kited around the cage, right? Yusuf Zalal backed up most of that fight, and people were critical of Zalal for the performance that he put on against Calvin Kattar. And then against Steve Garcia, he just kind of got beat up in that one. But I mean, win or lose, for the last like 5 years or so, it just feels like this man has been going to nothing but decisions. Since the Jeremy Stevens fight where he got that one knockout, that was just kind of one and done. And then ever since then, it's just been a bunch of decisions. I wonder if the turning point in this man's career was the Max Holloway fight. Because it seems like he kind of took it in stride in his bounce back against Giga Chikadze where he did win. Maybe I need to watch the Josh Emmett match again because it's like, where did it all go wrong? Potentially it was the leg injury. But I mean, dude, like, Calvin Kattar really had the world in his palms. It was him and Rob Font on the come up at the same time, and they were both renowned across the UFC for their boxing prowess. And now he's on a 5-loss streak. All decisions. It's like over an hour's worth of time of just losing in fights. It's horrible. It sucks for him. Hopefully he can bounce back and get something on track. I'm actually kind of rooting for a Calvin Kattar resurgence, man. Not him getting anywhere close to the title heavens, but just like 1 or 2 maybe big knockouts outside of the rankings just so he can retire on something. Some positive vibes for Calvin, bro. This is a guy whose fighting style I really don't like, and it really annoys me that this dude goes to so many decisions because of just the way that his frame is. He's 6 foot at featherweight. He has a lot of power, it seems, and he has good accuracy and output on the feet too, but instead of employing his skills in a way where he can get to finishes through striking or through grappling and being aggressive enough to the point where he can set up submissions or get into dominant positions to let go ground and pound, he just likes to work in the clinch. He's always just like pinning someone to the cage and using his impressive physicality to keep them there instead of actually chasing finishes. William Gomis is a fighter that I do not like to watch fight. I think he's intensely boring. Hyder Emil wasn't able to make that a very memorable fight because of just all the stalling that was going on the behalf of William Gomis. I'm very sad that Robert Ruchala wasn't able to win that fight against William Gomis. It seemed like he was up at certain moments, but he did gas out. Hurt William Gomis towards the end of the fight, but he just had nothing left to pour it on. This guy is going to win a lot more decisions before he ends up hitting the rankings. I think that he might even become ranked at a certain point too. I have appreciation for high-level grappling, but I mean, if you are a dude who primarily works in the clinch, then Finally, we have Navajo Stirling, and I do not know why, for the life of me, this guy cannot finish a fight. They're giving him opponents that should be layups for him, right? Like, dude, Tuco Tokos, Ivan Erslan, Hidalgo Bellado, we should be finishing these opponents, man. We should be starching these dudes. He always has his opponents dead to rights as well. Even Erslan had 1 foot in the grave against Navajo Stirling, and Navajo Stirling just let him off the hook and still won a decision. Hidalgo Bellado, it's the same thing. I'm not sure if it's like a tentativeness to exchange in the pocket. He's very physically imposing, and he has a good skill set coming from a good gym where there's other great strikers. So it's like, I don't know why he's not able to make it work. He's a young fighter though, so I mean, I'm vesting hope in that. Undefeated as well, so that may be another thing. He just wants to play it safe so he can maintain that O in the loss column, but you got to kind of walk into the fire sometimes. I think he would be better suited to trust his skills and his hands and his kicks as well. Because whenever he is aggressive and stands in the phone booth, he is doing a lot of things right. He just always withdraws, and he's a clinch merchant as well. I'm rooting for the Navajo Stirling character redemption arc where he just becomes a wicked finisher. I think he can do it. I believe in this guy. But as of right now, I never really get too hyped to watch him fight because I know what I'm going to get every single time. Maybe a couple moments where he looks good on the feet, but otherwise it's just going to be him wrestling for no reason, grinding an opponent away in the clinch that he could vaporize in 30 seconds. I'm glad that we have prospects like Abdul Rahman Yakayev who will go for it. But I'm not just going to give up on this dude, even though, I mean, it's definitely not the most entertaining fighter. So yeah, that's going to be my list, you guys. Thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. Please do like, comment, and subscribe if you did make it here. I will have more uploads for you guys very soon. Please also have a wonderful day. I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.